Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today I'm delighted to say I'm doing another collaboration with Reena from Gold Key Guidance. Reena is a wonderful tarot reader, one of my very favourites on YouTube, and a delightful person who I'm very proud to say is a friend now. So I'm very, very delighted to be doing another collaboration with her. And we've been thinking about doing one for a while. And what we wanted to look at today is that when one looks at a situation, whether it's sort of a mystery you're trying to solve, whether it's a relationship issue, whether it's a career issue, whether it's a creative block, whatever it might be, most people have a tendency to either mainly work it out through their head, their mind, the facts, the evidence, the logic of it, or to go to their heart. What do they feel? What is the emotional pull, the emotional drive? But probably somewhere in a balance in the two is where you would get the best answer. So we thought, why not actually do a collaboration that looks at both of those sides? So I took the what does your head think about this situation, because that seemed the most logical one, to be honest, for me to do. I do live a little bit too much in my head, I would say, on balance. And most people who know me, and probably even those who are familiar with my readings, can sort of see that I tend to like to understand the logic and the different lenses of looking at things, complex systems, thinking, psychology, all that sort of stuff. And I try to also incorporate the heart, but I think my default is to the head. And I think it's because I believe at a very fundamental level that the universe is balanced, is mathematically perfect, and that everything actually makes sense. Nothing is actually irrational if we get enough of the right information. That the issue probably is knowing when we have the right information and that we're interpreting it the correct way. But when we experience cognitive dissonance and things like that, I think it's a pretty big sign from the universe that something is missing, something's not right. So that's how I'm wired, basically. So it seemed logical for me to take that one. And Reena is taking what is your heart saying about the situation. So what I would suggest to people, if you're going to look at both, and I would really recommend that you look at Reena's as well as mine if you've come to this one first, because getting that balanced view of it is really helpful, I think, is if you have a predisposition, if you tend to be more in your head, then maybe start with mine and then go and get the other perspective. If you tend to be more someone who operates from their heart, go to Reena, see that one, and then come back and watch this one. I just think that might be the logical thing, to ease yourself into the situation in your most dominant way of doing it, and then go and get the other perspective. That's what I'd suggest. But ultimately, you do you. And if you're happy you've come here, you're a heart-based person, but you'd like to see the alternative first and then go to Reena's, by all means do that. Whatever works for you. So there are 4 readings to choose from. As always, you can go to more than one if you have more than one situation that you'd like to sort of see through those perspectives, and Reena will also have 4 as well. We're filming them separately. We don't have any idea what the situations are going to be, so there may not be a direct correlation of pile 1 here to pile 1 in Reena's and so forth. So go by your intuition with both. But for those that like the numbers, I will put out the numbers here first. So what I've done to try and help with the choice is that I've chosen the Justice card from 4 different tarot packs. So this is the tarot pack that I will use for the tarot section in each of these, so that if you're drawn particularly to the energy of a tarot deck or to this imagery, that may help you choose. I thought Justice of all the major arcana might be the clearest representation of a head intellect first approach. So it seemed to me to be the sensible one, but it also tilts towards the fact that balance is always important, and so why it's important to go to other readings as well. So for pile number 1, we have the Justice card from the White Fly Tarot. For pile number 2, we have the Justice card from the Radiant Wilds Tarot. For pile number 3, we have the Justice card from the Pythia Tarot. And for pile number 4, we have the Justice card from the Antiquarian Tarot. So that may help you choose. Whatever way works for you is, of course, fine. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I have the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So these cards are meant to give a bit of a sense about what is the sort of situation you might be dealing with. And the purpose of this is to try and make sure that you're in the right reading, because there are 4 readings to choose from. So if this doesn't feel quite right, you may want to check out whatever your second instinct was. I just think it's good to set that scene when we're talking about a kind of situation. I do think that for most people, if they've come to the right reading here, this has got something to do, I think, with either a career choice or a creative choice or something where you have some degree of responsibility. And there's possibly a challenge that is operating around your responsibility at the moment, and to what degree you either should or shouldn't take on the blame for something, should or shouldn't mitigate for something, should or shouldn't provoke and shift something. So, and the reason I'm saying that is that this first card here, the Eight of Air in the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, is not like the Eight of Swords specifically, which is being caught in a mental trap, but there is an issue around it about accepting responsibility for something. So there's a question here, I think, about whether or not you did something that was the wrong thing to do, or maybe not wise, or you're starting to question whether a pathway that you've taken, and as I say, this could be in career, it could be around a relationship, it could be anything, but it's something where you are trying to determine what responsibility you should take for something. You're prepared to do it if you know that you should. You have a very strong sense of loyalty and duty to whatever this is, with effectively the Knight of Pentacles, but in this deck it talks about the Seneschal, which seems to be a kind of a supporting, loyal, a supporting, loyal, yeah, well, maybe I shouldn't say supporting, loyal. Maybe I should just say a supporter, someone who has a supporting role. Maybe, like, so in an organization, it could be, sort of someone who's an advisor to a CEO, or somebody who is very trusted by their manager. If it is in a family, it could be having a very responsible role to look after others, and that kind of thing. There's often a sort of sense of being a little bit behind the scenes with this sort of card, and I feel like there might be something here about almost a question of loyalties and what is the right thing to do. It could be that for some of you, you have an opportunity now to step forward and take your own position of authority, power, your own creative instinct, something like that, and you may feel, am I actually abrogating my duty? Is it the wrong thing to do? Because there's something here also with the Five of Earth around duty, around what are the costs of things? What is there a gamble or a risk to take? So I do think that for some of you, you either think you've taken a risk that maybe took you away from something you were committed to, and you're wondering, was that something you could have chosen, or did fate step in? Or for others, it might be you have an opportunity, as I say, to step forward into more of a position of authority, power, leadership. Or you could be, thinking I could venture into a new relationship, but, am I somehow being disloyal to friends or family or others who rely on me? There's something here where others rely on you, or you've been in a position to support people, and now there's a potential opportunity, risk, or something that either you've just taken and you're wondering whether it was the right thing to have done, or the opportunity is there and you're trying to work out whether it's the right thing to do. And there is a strong indication here that your heart is going to be important. So I'm going to be looking at, obviously, what your head is telling you about, what facts you know, and so forth. But with water element sensing here, your sort of grounded sense of and sense of right and wrong is very, very strong. But you also need to work out what matters to your heart. And I almost feel like for many of you might be being a bit harsh with yourself. So it will be interesting to see how this works through, because there's something very provocative about this energy. There's a new opportunity, or there's something, you've provoked something. Maybe there's been a dispute that's been provoked. Maybe you've caused something to bring about change and you're not sure, was it too risky? Was it the right thing? With Grand Cross here, there was a tension that needed to break. So if you are ready to step into some sort of position of authority, you are ready to do that. And if you're feeling it's disloyal, I think there's a pretty strong indication here that it's not, that you are at the point where you couldn't have continued. But equally, you want to make sure you're such a loyal, such an honourable person. You want to make sure that you take accountability for the risks and the choices that you've made. But I feel as though you may be taking too much on. So part of this situation, I think, what the head can do, because I think the heart will do a lot, and it's going to be very important what Reena's reading tells you in relation to this. But what the head can maybe do is bring some balance so that you don't feel as beholden to maybe some responsibilities. And as I say, supporting sort of roles that are not of the right time now. So let's use tarot. Let's get a little bit more detail about this firstly, about what is the issue that you need your head to sort out. Then we're going to look at what facts you do know and also what you may not know at this point that your mind would be sort of benefiting from in making this decision about whether you did the right thing, what accountability there is for you, how that affects the loyalties of your life. So a little bit more detail on the issue for you, pile one. Knight of Swords reversed, Nine of Wands, the Fool, Six of Cups reversed, the Chariot reversed. So it's really interesting. I suspect that most of you, if you had the choice about whether you go through your head or your heart, I think that most of you are a bit like me. I think you do a lot processes through your mind with the Knight of Swords coming up first. Your first go-to around anything is it the right thing to do? And it needs to be grounded, there needs to be evidence. Knight of Swords reverse in some ways is good, I think, because the Knight of Swords when it's upright can be so gung-ho that it rushes in before thinking. So this feels more as though you're assessing a risk and accountability rather than having taken one. However, if you have taken a risk and you're now wondering about your accountability, if it provoked something that you didn't expect and an emotional response that you didn't expect. In fact, if you are someone who provokes something emotional around a family or a love relationship because you were moving and shifting your loyalties a bit and you've kind of been a bit shocked by the reaction to it, and now you're trying to figure out, did I calculate it right, which is another way that those set of cards could operate. You're taking a little bit of time to sort it through. You know that whatever this issue is, it's not over. There is actually a way to salvage this situation and turn it into something new that is positive for you. You've just got to keep going in a measured way, but keep going. So if this is around a workplace and it's time for you to step up, but it's a little bit sensitive around all of that at the moment, just keep doing what you're doing. Take a measured approach. The new step is coming. The new opportunity is coming. If this is around a relationship, it could be that just sticking at it for the moment will bring into being in whatever new way it's going to operate. It can't operate the way that it was. That in a sense, you weren't wrong to be provoking a change, but now you've got to kind of diplomatically let it settle and see what direction it's going to go in. There is some yearning for the past that you have to deal with around this though, and I think this is your loyalty. I think that once you commit to something, you really commit to it, and I feel that something new is needing to be born in this situation, and so you need to kind of let go of a bit of nostalgia because that is holding you back with the Chariot reversed. And it's interesting, the Chariot is about balancing head and heart to a bit. I do think that many of you use your mind to slow things down when you're not sure, particularly around emotional issues. So you are sensing an emotional undercurrent in this, whatever it is, and you know that the new is coming, but you just have to sort of keep on with the situation at the moment. It's like if you're assessing, have I done the wrong thing? Have I set something off that I shouldn't have set off? You know, have I done something that's going to have a sort of a flow-on effect that's not what I would have intended? Do I need to halt it all now? Like, have I taken too much of a risk? I think the answer is no. The answer is to keep moving, but to keep moving in a measured way. Like you using your mind to manage the timing around this, because there's something material as an outcome for it. So let's ask what your mind does know. What evidence is it available for you around this that you could bring to the table to help assess your next steps? The World, Queen of Swords reversed, Eight of Wands, Nine of Pentacles. Okay, all right. It's getting a little bit clearer what this might be about. So this can either be in relation to a relationship, I think, or it could be literally something around a career, creative project, somewhere where you, as I say, are meant to step into something that is more independent and is more your own thing. You know that certain circumstances have to come to an end. They've done their time. So if this is around a career situation, it's ready for you to move up to the next level or just move on to something else or even potentially start your own business or something. You've been very, very loyal to something, very loyal, but you know you need to take a risk and you either are getting ready to do it or you've just done it. There's situations have provoked it in some way. I think for some of you, it might have been coming across someone who's become incredibly critical of what you do or incredibly difficult to deal with. If it's in a relationship, you may have found that it's a relationship where you're incredibly loyal and careful, but you were always careful. You're always walking on eggshells almost with this, and it needs to move on and leave, even if it's been provoked in an emotional way, because there was something about this situation that's no longer valuing you in the way that you should be valued. So you know you needed liberation from that. You know you need independence. So if this is you thinking, have I got ahead of my skis around, moving into an authority position or moving into some sort of different job or even leaving a relationship that, maybe I have been feeling responsible for or in a family or friendship situation, finally provoking the argument where somebody has been too critical and too selfish and you've thought, have I overdone this? The answer is no, and you kind of know it. You kind of knew it got to that point. You were pushed. You were pushed by someone who pushed your intellectual buttons, who was critical or who was maybe holding you back. And you're careful in what you're doing, but you're not being irresponsible at all. Okay, so you know that stuff. So what evidence or facts don't you have that if your mind could sort of consider these, your mind would tell you, yeah, this is confirming this, or I need to modify some of this. There's some stuff that I don't know. Four of Swords, Seven of Cups reversed, Seven of Swords reversed. Okay, I think this is telling you that whoever the person is that's been difficult in this situation keeps an enormous amount to themselves, And so it's hard to fully understand what their motivations are. Now, a little bit later in this, we're going to have a look at other people and fate, how that impacts on this situation. So that may actually uncover a little bit more of this, but you are more where your, not necessarily your heart on your sleeve, but where your philosophy on your sleeve, where your loyalty and dedication. This person hides a lot of things away. So if it was a boss, they hide away what their true ambition is and how they use their mind to keep control. If it's a friend or a collaborator, similar sort of thing, they use critique and then they almost hide away. They almost give off the impression that you shouldn't sort of come back at them. They're almost the sort of person, very passive aggressive, like intellectually passive aggressive. If they say something nasty and then you actually respond, they act as though you've hurt them. There's something like this, and you kind of know it, but you don't know to what degree this is actually strategic. This person, this situation, you shouldn't be loyal to this situation. You're dealing with a very manipulative scenario, manipulative people that you're working with, manipulative creative partners, manipulative relationship, manipulative friendship. If you could really get in and read the mind of this person, I think you'd be quite shocked. So I think you're a very loyal and a very committed and very honourable sort of person. And you tend to think that's where people come from. So when you're looking at this, you're probably thinking, okay, this is now at a point where it's no longer working for both of us, and whatever this situation is. The critical sort of stuff is their genuine response. They're not understanding what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe, it's time for me to do something different. Certainly this has got to the point where it's not going to kind of resolve itself. And, maybe they're right that, maybe I've, been a little bit, disrespectful or made the wrong decision or need to take more accountability. What you don't know is how much they manipulate people. So I think in knowing that, if your mind had an understanding of how their mind worked, you would be less worried about whether you'd done the right thing. You'd know actually that you had. So I think there's a very strong sense here of your mind understanding. Part of what your mind needs to understand is that not everybody is as honourable as you, and you will vex yourself about whether you've done the right thing. But not everybody is like that. So if you shift your perspective on what this critical person, what they are saying, or critical people, if it's more than one, if it's an environment, you'll realise that that your instinct to be free is right, and that you don't need to second guess yourself so much. Okay, so let's have a look at some aspects of you, your personality, that is worth also bringing to the fore. So we've already seen to some degree that you have a tendency, like most people, to judge by yourself, and because you're an honourable person who takes responsibility, you're presuming everybody else takes that. If your mind understands that's not the case, then that's helpful. But what else do you need to know about yourself? What else does your mind need to say about you? So I'm just going to use a couple of decks that have sort of personality characteristics and so forth, just things that you should bear in mind about yourself in this situation. Mirthfulness and hope. Okay, there you are, you see. You're actually, this person's kind of heavy and emotionally passive aggressive, and all these, the environment is, if it's not an actual person. You really, you see the light side of things, you want to enjoy things and so forth, but you can lose that sense very quickly if you feel you're in a situation where you aren't being able to contribute and so forth. So you need to think about, your mind needs to think about what makes you happy in a relationship, in a career, in a creative project, whatever this is. Because I think when you think about it, you'll know you haven't been happy for some time. And hope, you should always know that you can then move on. You can make a decision. Your mind can say, once I've established that this is not giving me mirth and it is not giving me hope, once I've established, because you are such a loyal person, that really this is at a point of no return, it allows you to move on. Okay, let's look at another couple of personal characteristics. Beige, conservative, neutral, dependable, and basic. Okay, I'll put out two first. And tiger, okay. These are, I think, are two aspects of you need to balance. So there's a part of you with that beige, I think it's the dependable. You know, you like to be neutral. You don't like to be in, with the Grand Cross, you don't really like to be in provocative situations. You like to feel that it's steady, it's stable, you're loyal. But you have been provoked. I think there's been a situation here to provoke you to bring out the inner tiger. So you may be born in the year of the tiger, but if not, the tiger characteristics are really what you need to bring to the fore here. Tiger is confident, brave, magnetic, bit of a thrill seeker, able to take some risks. Don't worry about that. Don't feel that you have to always hold the fort. It's your time to move forward and use those sort of very dynamic elements. And tigers can be a bit selfish, and I think you need to be, because I think with this card here you have a tendency to be a bit selfless, and so I think you need to bring, you will always be dependable. You're not going to lack honor, but sometimes you need to put you first, and this is what your head is telling you about this situation. I think actually your heart goes to why you're so loyal and dependable, so it'll be interesting to see what you get with Reena's reading, because I think your heart may be a little bit of an Achilles heel for you, but equally it will tell you the truth in a different way. So very, very interesting. Okay, so let's also then see what the external world is saying about this. So let's have a look at some characteristics of the people around you, and then we'll have a look at some characteristics of fate around you that are bearing on this. And so again, these are all just things for your head to consider when you're really assessing this situation. So other people around it may demonstrate 20s, a youthful approach to things. So they may literally be in their 20s, but I think generally for this, it's more like what the generation represents. And that age group tends to be exploring and finding things in themselves. So I think this is saying that others around you are doing this. You may have been almost old before your time, one, being the really responsible one. So other people may be almost consciously or unconsciously manipulating you to kind of hold the fort down so they have a chance to explore. But you're also meant to be able to do this. We've got cardamom, see? Okay, so they may use sort of divination, and some of it you may know people who use divination. Otherwise, it just may be saying that these sort of cards will tell you something, so pay attention to it. They may seem to be a bit prophetic too, but I would be wary in this situation because of what this looks like to me. I think it might be that they may like to appear to understand and know things that you don't know, but they're actually not sort of really mature enough about it to really do that. And skillful. They nevertheless do have some skills in what they do. So it's an interesting balance. I think you know, and your mind knows to respect what they bring to the table, but I think they may overstate it because there's something youthful, there's something immature in this energy as well too. So if your mind can understand and respect what skills they bring to something, but also understand that maybe it is a bit overstated and maybe it's not as mature as they say, then you'll have a better fix on what's going on. Let's also get a couple of cards for what fate energy. And so what I'm talking about here is sort of like either people around you or bigger elements that are bearing on this, that if your mind understood this, it would be helpful as well for you. Love, true love and fidelity. Okay. So you, I think, are very faithful. And when you love truly. I do think in this there could be someone, if this is about love, that's not the right person for you and they may be holding you back. You are meant to be with the right person. Your mind should know that love should be like that on both sides. So this change, I think, is meant to bring that in for you, whether this is about a relationship or not. And seduction, passion and romance. Okay. So there's something new coming in, all right? For some of you, this may be that you've been loyal and committed to a relationship that's actually been quite toxic. And you're meant to understand that because you're meant to find something that's much more passionate. If this is not about love in terms of romance, if it's about career or something like that, there's sort of excitement and love and a reigniting of what you want to do that you're meant to have by doing something new for yourself. And it could also be that if you change your workplace or a collaboration or whatever it is, that love is a nice side effect around this. You're meant to bring that into your life. So your mind should know that that's maybe a bigger picture to why this provocative energy was there and why there's this sort of push towards change in your life in one way or another. Okay, so we're going to ask a question and we're going to look at an alchemical energy for you as well. So asking a question and understanding the kind of transformative process that this situation is. These are two other pieces of evidence that your mind can use. So the question for you to consider, for your mind to consider about this situation, comes from the constellation of Cancer, and it says, what would you do for those you care for? And I think that has an interesting question. I think you maybe do too much for those you care for. And I think that given the energy of this, sometimes you may put aside what your mind is telling you about a situation because you care about someone and you're letting them get away with a bit too much. But if you cease to do that, if you listen to your mind and you say, part of what you do for those you care for, if they're not returning it, is move away and find those who are more worthy of your love. Because when you have someone where the love really is there is nothing you won't do for them, and it is part of something that is genuine. Okay, so let's also ask what alchemical energy is that your mind should be thinking about to solve this situation. Uranus, change. This is the grand cross, the provocative energy. This is electric energy. This is the mind, really, with electric energy, understanding, but knowing that change is necessary. So all through this, it is saying that you are very committed once you commit, but you know that there's an element of risk, there's an element of change, there's an element of the new coming through, and you need to do it. But you're really worried about how that's going to upset the apple cart in whatever situation this is. But this is a change that's necessary. And your mind is strong enough to deal with it in a steady way, but you just keep needing to move forward. Okay, so one of your things in this, quite clearly, Pole 1, is how much you care. This is coming up here with the question. It's coming up with what could be a reward, etc. So it is important to also listen to your heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip my hat to that concept with one card, but I'm going to say go and see Reena's reading, because you very much need to look at this for Pole 1, because you are a very loving person, actually. But your mind knows these things, but your heart, I think, doesn't necessarily want to see what your mind knows. But let's just get one card for your heart before we finish off just with some astrology to close out with some final advice for you. So, okay. The distorted masculine. Okay. So this suggests to me there is a power issue, and it doesn't have to be, the person concerned doesn't have to be a man, though they could be. It came up as the Queen of Swords reversed, but it's not about gender. I think that's a good example of it not being about gender, but it is about power that is misused. So there is something here. I do not believe, looking at the energies within this, that you are likely to do something that was illegitimate. But if you did, then you are going to take account for it, and you will be able to rectify that. I feel much more, though, with this that you are a very honourable person, but you are possibly around people who aren't, people who will take advantage of that. This is why you have to break through this energy so that you can find the right people to be working with, to be in love with, to be friends with, whatever it is. And the degree of distortion and manipulation that you're around is greater than you have allowed yourself to see emotionally. But if your mind can understand that and grasp it and know it's not your fault, then you will be able to release yourself and find something better. So I just want 3 last cards for you around astrology to see what final advice we have, what your final advice your head has for you around this. Cancer. Oh, Cancer again. Part of this is you're very protective. This may be saying that for some of you, this is around family dynamics. I mean, with Cancer coming up twice, Cancer is very much hearth and home. So for some of you, it could be family dynamics that you're needing to sort through, and you've been very, very loyal and long-suffering potentially. For others, it may be that patterns like the loyalty and the worry about responsibility and so forth has been something that was inbred in you very much from when you were young. But you're very protective. This is why you're not going to do the wrong thing. You just need to understand that not everybody else is as honourable as you. We have Scorpio. Yeah, you need a bit more of the Scorpio. If you're going to go into the water element, and this may also be the water element might have been coming up because you're a water sign or have it strongly. Scorpio's a little bit more judgy. Scorpio will look at things and see them for what they are. Cancer will tilt towards beyond protecting everything. Will tend to be probably a little bit softer. Scorpio goes to the depths. I do think you need to do that. I think your head needs to really take a good hard look at what the behaviours are around you, because they're not going to accord. This is what I say in the introduction. Things make sense. You'll work out that what they're saying and what they're doing are different. They're not gelling, and that will help you understand and see it. And conjunction, there's likely to be a significant relationship at the end of this. I just don't think for most of you it's likely to be the relationship you're in. Now, there is a possibility that you can break through and clear the air with somebody if that's going on, and of course it's possible. But I think for most of you, you're either in a relationship that's not being particularly honest, and you need to find the one that is, or you're not in a relationship at the moment, but you're around so many people that are making demands of you that there's no room for all of that. And when you free yourself a bit, you can bring it in. Certainly, if this is also about career and so forth, you're likely to have some good connections as well. So pole 1, I think your situation is just working out your level of responsibility. And the only real thing you have to be concerned about here is how you let your mind judge situations because of a very soft, a very caring heart. When you take a little bit more of a scorpionic clinical view of it, I think that it will become quite clear. But that is connecting to the water element, so to your heart. So I very strongly suggest that you go and see Reena's reading and see what light your heart can shed on the matter. So I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. And I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So we have some Dreams of Gaia Tarot to get a bit of a sense with some astrology cards here about what the nature of the situation might be in very broad terms before we start looking at how your head can sort of analyse and work through what to do with it. I think this is, and it's partly I want to do this so that you know whether you've come to the right reading, because there's 4 readings to choose from. I'm sure they'll be all quite different. So if this doesn't feel quite right, don't try and force it. Maybe try one of the other readings that you felt sort of the second level of being drawn to. But hopefully this will, and you've come to the right one. So this is very much a situation where your head needs to sort of have a look at who you want to be, how you want to transform the next step of your journey in your self-actualization. Whether it's creatively, romance, love, or who you are, there is creating yourself, I think, is a large part of this, and understanding that you're beginning on something new and what's the right direction to have. Because the Four of Water in the Dreams of Gaia is not like the Four of Cups in as much as it's not about feeling emotionally stuck at all. It's about starting to understand your own beauty and your own potential. So your mind needs to almost look in the mirror like this one is and see the beauty that you have. Or can be metaphorical. If you look at your nature, your creativity, whatever it is that you're trying to sort of start anew, there is something which your mind can appreciate, the balance, the symmetry, the beauty, the timeliness of it. So your mind can see that. It can see the creation as beautiful, as something to do. And this could be as profound as something about changing yourself in some way, starting on a new journey, transitioning in some way, redoing your look, redoing even your gender. There could be anything. It could be quite big on that level, or it could be a new creative project. It could be, getting yourself out there to sort of like find love because you've actually realized self-love is there and you've got it. But your mind needs to sort of be able to see the beauty, see the potential, and be open to the fact that you are on a journey, that things may shift and change. You might change your mind as you go along. You might think, oh, I did that wrong, but you pick yourself up and you keep moving because you've learnt from it. So your mind here is allowing you to become more and more confident, more and more clear on who you are, and allows you in a sense the right to make mistakes and to test and to go on and to see that this is a major transformation that you're going through. And it could manifest in career, creativity, love, or just in you really starting to say, this is who I am, as opposed to maybe, what's been required of you or expected of you by friends or family or work. So it could be profoundly creative, as I say, or it could be just you creating you. But your mind here, how your mind is going to help you in this situation, is allow you to experiment, allow you to see this as a longer term thing that is perfect in itself, and that can, be a learning experience, and that you will evolve as you grow. It's like really embracing Pluto. Pluto is all about transformation, and people get a bit nervous by Pluto quite often. A bit like they get nervous by the Tower card in tarot, but it's not bad any more than the Tower card is. It's where transformation occurs. Some of the most beautiful things in creation come from profound transformation, like butterflies, for instance. So this is about embracing that which is you and transforming and growing and evolving in some way. And it could be in any aspect of your life, as I say, but this is your mind helping you understand that, learn from it, course correct, and have that kind of innate optimism, to bring that in and to see what is beautiful. But there's something about symmetry. There's something about, the balance, I feel like looking at this and this sort of energy, like those sort of sacred geometry, and how when you look in plants and sort of growth patterns of trees and all that sort of thing, there is a perfection to it. There is a balance to it. So there is something about an evolution here. There's something about a perfection of who you are, that this is what this is talking about. So let's get the tarot. Let's get a little bit more detail on the actual issue. Then we're going to have a look at what facts you do have at the moment that your mind knows, and then also maybe what you don't see that it would be good for your mind to be able to take into account. So firstly, just a little bit more about what is the nature of this evolution and transformation that we're seeing here. High Priestess, Eight of Pentacles reversed, Five of Pentacles reversed, Queen of Cups, Ace of Pentacles reversed. Okay, so I think for many of you this will be about things like love. It could be self-love, your identity and all those sort of things, definitely, but and emotional maturity and emotional sustenance. The heart side of this Reena's reading will be very important, because there's a very strong core of the heart here, very strong core of how you feel, how you love, emotional maturity, emotional self-actualization. And it's very spiritual as well. You're very, very spiritual and very, very emotionally resonant. So your mind here, I think, is giving you a framework and allowing you freedom. It's a very interesting way of using your mind, actually, because usually, speaking as someone who lives too much in their mind, the mind can be a bit of a straitjacket sometimes. It kind of like, it requires a kind of frameworks and rules and logic and so forth. The weird thing about this, and I think the good thing, is your intuition and your emotional acuity is such that you're using your mind to unlearn things with the Eight of Pentacles, to find how to make connections that aren't normally seen with the Five of Pentacles reversed. It feels like on a material level, it's like you unlearn all the kind of principles of that. You're seeing something new, you're understanding something new, and you're allowing yourself with the Ace of Pentacles to know that there is an ultimate destination, but you don't have to get to it in a hurry and you don't have to define it yet. So your mind is liberating you. It's liberating you to look at different things. It's like, you know, I think some of you, like, it's interesting. I think there's a very strong spiritual thing here and a very strong emotional thing here. But I think some of you might be quite scientific or artificial intelligence or something. There's something where the level of inquiry that is here, and that the openness to whatever might happen, you're letting your mind liberate you by saying, you know, I'm going to throw out the rule books in a way, and I'm going to just see what happens. So really interesting. So let's see what your mind does know about this evolution. And as I say, I don't think it's going to be specific about what part in your life is, because this could be anything. It could be how you love. It could be how you present yourself. It could be how you are in a career. It could be how you are creatively. You know, it could be anything. But you are going to evolve. You are going to transform, and you're letting your mind liberate you rather than limit you, which is really powerful, Pole 2. So let's see what your mind does know as you go through this. Seven of Swords. 10 of Wands, Queen of Swords reversed, Page of Swords reversed. Okay. Your mind knows a couple of things. One, your mind knows, for many of you, that you're in an environment or around people where a lot of the way that the mind is used is the opposite to what you do. It's used to critique, it's used to control. Information is only given out when you know it's a powerful thing to do, and it's withheld otherwise. There's a lot of kind of subterfuge or something. There's that sort of like the mind is used as a straitjacket. So this is either in a relationship you're in, or it's in an environment you're in, or something like that. And you can see the burden that is. You can see that is an exhausted way of doing something. Your mind knows it's clever enough to break through that. I mean, this is the Seven of Swords, and to me, the Seven of Swords is a very interesting card. On some levels, it can be trickery and so forth, and I think there are some people who are very controlling in this situation around you, who believe this is the way you should be. But you know that's rubbish, and you know that they're withholding a lot of the truth about this to control. You can see that. You can see it almost bearing down on them. And so you're a negotiator. You're able to use the positive side of Seven of Swords. And I think it's like to kind of climb up this rainbow sort of like staircase, you know, swirling staircase almost here. Like for some of you, this is going to be about something like how you love your diversity, something like that, or a very different way of doing things that incorporates much more than the old world. There's a shift here. But you know, your mind knows it's smart enough. And you're not... These sort of energies lack confidence. They want to always be right. They could never admit that they were wrong, actually, because then somehow they think that lessens them. You actually have figured out that doesn't lessen you at all, that you can actually build and grow. So, as I say, you know, your mind knows that it's going to do something different and that you're on the right track. But what does your mind not know? What's around the situation at the moment that would be good if your mind could take this into account? Five of Swords, the Hierophant reversed, Knight of Pentacles reversed. Okay, so firstly, there's actually a lot of debate within whatever this situation is. And maybe there are some elements of it you're not even aware of. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that you're in a research or an academic environment. I'm just using this as an example. And there are people that are very rigid about, what it would take to get good sort of grades or a PhD or to, get your paper peer reviewed or whatever. They're very rigid. And that that's collapsing, that something new is needed and you're working out what to do with it. There may be nuances to what's going on with this that you're not aware of. And I feel that there are some people around you in whatever this situation, so I'm just using it as an example, that are just as open to something almost heretical and different as you are, that are not as committed to this rigid hegemony as it appears. So whether it's around friendships, that there are some that are a little bit more anarchic like you, and I mean that in a good way, or whether it's in, as I say, an academic institution, there actually are people who would be happy to be with you on doing something new. They can see this isn't working anymore. You could have allies because there are battles within this that you're not even aware of. And if you're a little bit more aware of it, you'd find better allies. So that might be something, if it's possible to explore. It depends on what this situation is. But if it's possible to get a little bit more of an idea about what people really think about something, like kind of have some discussions rather than just presuming everybody is in this one way of looking at things and you're the one person who doesn't fit in. There are others like you. You could actually start a groundswell if you started to find those allies. So that's really interesting. And if it's sort of something emotional, and if it is something like, you want to do something like gender transition or whatever it might be, you may find family and friends, you have more allies who are on your side than you possibly think. So it's just, again, a very, very specific potential for some of this. It's just examples. Okay, so let's try and drill into this a little bit more. Let's start firstly with some stuff that your mind could consider about your own personality and how that's impacting here. Then we're going to have a look at the personalities of others around you and maybe how fate is involved in this as well. But firstly, I'm just using a couple of decks to look at how your personality, if your mind considers these aspects of your personality, it will help you in this. Not that I think you need a lot of help, actually, but I think you maybe can get through your journey even quicker if you sort of found some of your allies and stuff. So it's worth looking into. So your aspects are ambition, approbativeness, how far do you want to go, and tune, resonance. Okay, so yeah, I think you are ambitious for whatever this is. You've understood something beautiful about yourself, something beautiful about the journey, and it's ambition for the journey. It's not about vanity. It's not about anything like that. It is about the journey. I want to go on this journey. I want to explore. I want to be more who I truly am, or I want to understand more. I don't want to be stuck by something rigid here. So that's definitely there. But you're also able to connect with and resonate with others. So I think this is saying, your mind is saying, I don't have to do this alone, actually. This is this point. You probably even instinctively with the High Priestess here kind of know that there's energies there that could align with you. But, and that you're very emotionally resonant with the Queen of Cups. So there's something, you could be more in tune with others than you think. And I'm also getting being able to dance to your own tune. So I think people could follow you. I'm sort of getting Pied Piper, but without the concept of taking children away as the Pied Piper did, but that sort of sense of following the music of what you're doing, the beauty of what you're doing. So I think there's a very strong thing here about your mind. Your mind should remember that this journey is wonderful and it's your idea and it's your ambition, but it doesn't have to be done alone. Others could come along with you. And red, rude, passionate, energetic, sexy. It's definitely some people might want to sort of follow along with you. And navy, authority, duty, devoted, adaptable. So you will look after those that come with you, and you have a good sense of balance here. Your mind's not just about revolution for revolution's sake. You accept authority, you accept those who, again, say it was an academic institution, you accept that there are standards and so forth. And you can be adaptable for those, but you also have a journey that you're going on, and sort of being able to balance those sides of your nature would be helpful. Okay, so let's have a little bit of an idea also in this situation, what other people energy there is. So firstly, stuff around other personality aspects that your mind should consider that is around you, and then we'll have a look at fate's impact on this situation. Oops. Well, I think that's pretty clear that these are the 3 cards that wanted to come out because I wanted 3 cards, so we'll go with that. Healer. Okay. 20s. That's interesting. That came up for another one. Family and friends. Okay. There could be people around you at the moment, you know, who are healers or who are healing influences. So again, I think there's some good people around you, people who could connect, people, and if part of your journey in towards self-love and going on your journey and sort of like supporting yourself in it, that have healing energy. So don't feel that you have to do it on your own. You could inspire a lot of people to really start to explore who they are. You might be in your 20s, you don't have to be. The people around you who might want to follow you might be in their 20s. It doesn't have to be. It's an age where people explore who they are. So I think you become a bit of a symbol to that. I think your mind can understand that your bravery could be inspirational to others. And there's a lot of input around whatever this is around family and friends. So whether it is that you can find your allies amongst family and friends, or whether it's that sometimes they've been a little bit too restrictive and it's time for you to start to step into who you are, you'll know better depending upon the situation. Let's also have a look at fate energy, which your mind can consider. So this is stuff that's sort of coming in because of other people or because of karma, things that like the big ticket stuff that are meant to be around you at this point. The hand of fate, forces beyond your control intervene. So there is going to be help. I actually think this might be part of what you don't know at the moment. If you feel that there is going to be some sort of people trying to restrict what you do or naysay what you do, you're going to find allies as well. This is a change or a transformation that's meant to happen. You're meant to be able to go on this journey, pole 2. And the wyvern, your secrets are safe. Yeah, so if you feel within all this you've ever sort of said something you shouldn't have or acted precipitously or whatever, I think there will be your supporters and you don't have to worry about that. And also you can make some mistakes. It doesn't matter. It's not going to collapse the world. You can be confident as you move forward. Okay, so also want to have a look and give your mind a question to ask and also an alchemical phase to think about for this particular situation. So firstly, a question that your mind can ask yourself around this. We have the Phoenix. Oh, how fitting as a constellation. What will bloom from your ashes? So there may be a significant, with Pluto, this is a significant transformation. It's a significant new journey. And it may be that, you know, there are some family and friends that fall a bit by the wayside, at least for a while. There may be some intellectual pushback, but you know that something new is coming through and you're meant to do it. Okay, and let's see, given the Phoenix, which is a powerful alchemical system, symbol, sorry. Let's see what else we have in terms of alchemy of this particular situation for you that your mind can consider. Separation. Okay, so you may be separating from some people, or a work situation or a creative situation or something like that. The separation occurs to work out what is necessary to move forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that what has left is bad. It's just that it's a necessary process to refine it, you know. So this is all the way through. I think this is going to happen because I think it was saying it right at the beginning that part of what your mind is going to liberate you to do is to be allowed to test things out, try things out, make mistakes, course correct, refine, leave things behind, move forward. So this is very much a journey for you, and it's become more and more refined to be more who you really are. Okay, so that's very positive. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull a card for the heart, because this is all about what the head was supposed to see, but you know, this is a collaboration around the heart as well. So this is almost like a teaser or a taster around this situation, to encourage you to go and watch Reena's heart-based collaborative readings, and also, you know, to just give a little bit of an idea of some of the heart energy around this for you. As I say, almost as a taster before going and seeing Reena's reading, if you haven't already seen that and now come here to this one. So the heart energy that your mind might be able to perceive in this. Maturity. Yeah, this is all about maturity. This is all about coming, you know, you're coming out of that. Others may follow you, I think, but this is about you becoming who you're meant to be. And I think there is something profoundly mature in the approach that says, I'm allowed to go on a journey, I'm allowed to make mistakes. I think the odd thing is that I think that some of the restrictions around you that have existed, whether it's family, friends, workplace or whatever, were from people who were older. But in actual fact, your capacity to do this shows the maturity of your mind, but also of your heart. Okay, so last but not least, we're just going to get you 3 cards from the stars. So what the astrology can tell you for your situation and for your mind to consider. Pisces, this is about emotion. You definitely need to go and see the heart one. Your mind is, however, the good thing here is your mind is not going to restrict you in the way that it sometimes does, but it's very, very important to get to the emotional thing. And you're very psychic also. It's definitely confirming that. 8th house. Yeah, this is karmic. This is transformative. I wouldn't be surprised some of you have your North Node in the 8th house, because this is all about heading towards your North Node, I think, towards who you're truly meant to be. If you don't, there's something about Scorpio. You might have the North Node in Scorpio, or there's something about very deep karmic transformation going on at the moment. And the 6th house, ultimately, you will use this in service to others and in healing yourself potentially, but this will serve others. This is a very individual, finding your own beauty, finding your own path, experimenting energy, maybe coming out of restriction, but very liberated mind, very mature heart. But ultimately, you're going to give back through this. So I think this is partly why it's very supported. Yeah, and that's a mature outcome as well for this sort of energy. So pile 2, I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. And do go and see Reena's readings, because you in particular are very close to your heart, I think. Your heart is what is driving this. I think your mind is just happily not getting in the way. But nevertheless, knowing these things, can also keep the mind open like that. So it was worth hearing this part of the journey as well. So other than that, I wish you well, and I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So we have 3 cards from the Dreams of Gaia Tarot and also some astrology cards to try and get a kind of high-level sense about what type of situation we're talking about here. Then we'll sort of drill into it with a bit more tarot to see what your mind is telling you and go from there. I must say, it wouldn't surprise me if many of the people who've come here, if you took my advice at the beginning, you've gone sort of almost immediately and seen Reena's and then come back. It's fine if you haven't, but I would definitely suggest you go and see Reena's as well too, because there is a lot that's about the heart with this. So it may be what your mind needs to tell you here is an understanding of the patterns of the heart and the choices that are before you, so that it's not just going into the heart and getting a bit lost. Because this could be presaging a new relationship, a new love coming in with the Ace of Water or Ace of Cups. It could be one that's just started. It could be one that you sense is coming in, or it could be a new approach to love that you want to think about. And with the 7 of Water here, which is like the 7 of Cups, it's a bit like Dreams of Gaia isn't always exactly like the meanings of the traditional tarot. So the 7 of Cups traditionally is sort of like a whole bunch of options, but this is more going with the flow and understanding you can't control everything. With the 9 of Earth or 9 of Pentacles, which here is like, what value are you putting on material things, on commitment, onto long-term and so forth. And when we look at what's happening here, there's your life path, your spirit, sun, who are you meant to be in the world, and how are you presenting yourself in the world? So I feel like your mind here can help you understand how you're presenting yourself with regard to what you want in terms of commitment around relationship, caring, all that kind of thing, compared to what you might want to create for yourself in the world. This could be, if you're trying to decide if you're already in a relationship, are you wanting to commit to it, and join finances and legally and all that kind of thing? Or are you moving in a different direction because of your own ambition? You could be thinking about, when am I putting myself first and my needs first, compared to just trying to sort of emotionally go with the flow. I think there's a very big question here for your mind to think about what are your emotional values and what you want, And where do you need to be more definitive about that? Either to bring love in or to make love what it is that you would want it to be, that reflects you and honors you. So you could be in relationships where some really key questions about what it is to love compared to what it is to be a true companion, and to be able to honor yourself and honor the other. Don't be too self-sacrificial could be kind of the subtext of what your mind is saying here. Or this could be sort of a creative project where you have a vision and you want to bring it into material being, but how much might you have to give up of your own thing to go with the flow? There just seems to be a balance here about the truth of your love or passion and who you are, and what the impact of other emotional or creative instincts are here. So let's get a little bit more idea with tarot. We're firstly going to ask for a bit more detail on this issue. Then we're going to see what your mind already knows, and then we're going to look at what your mind might not know but could be useful for your mind to consider. So firstly, a little bit more on what this balance is here for you. Okay, the Ten of Cups reversed. The Seven of Swords reversed. Temperance. The Seven of Cups reversed. The Hierophant reversed. Okay. So there's a couple of things here. I think there's a couple of ways this could be working out. For some of you, there is a new lease on love, either a new love coming in or that you're ready for a new love after one that hasn't worked. Like, I think for some of you, you've realized you've been in a relationship or relationships where to keep harmony, you've given up far too much. Your mind knows you've given up far too much of yourself. So you've given up quite a bit of power. But your mind knows it's possible to bring this into balance. Your mind actually wants to. Your mind's kind of looking at this and saying you're beautifully soft-hearted and you really want to commit, but, you might be sacrificing who you truly are and some of your kind of autonomy and sovereignty for this. And your mind desperately wants you to sort of like not get caught in that again and to be more balanced with this, to be a little bit more pragmatic emotionally. Your mind goes, you're so loving, and you really are, that sometimes people could take advantage of that and may not treat you the way that you should be treated. So for some of you, this is about you understanding that and gaining that back. Your mind wants you to get refocused on your needs, your sort of level of commitment, what that means to you, what your life path is, so that when you are in the flow of emotion, it takes that into account. For others, I think this may be saying that whatever patterns you're worried about, something different is coming in that is different like you. You may not be someone who is built for a conventional relationship. This might be the point. This might be why. What does that look like to you? Who are you? What's your life pattern? So you may need to say, I have a more limited palette of emotional things to choose from because I don't want what everybody else wants. And for me to be in balance, I need to be true to that. If I tried to fit in with that particular way of relating, I'm just going to be telling lies and it's not going to last. So it just depends on which it is. I think for some of you, your mind, it wants you to understand that you're very different about this. You need to be clear about that. It doesn't mean that you don't love. It doesn't mean that love is in your life, but it means something different to what most people conventionally think of. And for others, it's let go of past situations where you've given up too much of what you truly were just for the sake of love so that you can bring something in. So you'll probably know which of those two applies to you. So let's therefore ask what facts you know about this situation at the moment, what your mind already has to work with. The Chariot, the King of Pentacles, the Six of Cups reversed, the Oracle. Okay, so this deck has some additional cards, including there's two versions of the Oracle, and that's Pythia, so this is a Pythia Tarot. So she was the Oracle of Delphi. The good news is this is the calm version. There's two versions of this person or this sort of mythological person. I guess it was a person, the Oracle of Delphi. One looks calm, so there is a calmness here. You kind of know what you need to do and where you're going. You can kind of see what's happening. You have enough of information to know how to make the right decision here. The other version looks really frustrated. So this is really good. Your mind actually helps keep you calm, helps you get a sort of idea about what's coming. You understand the consequences of things. You've sorted a lot of that out. And in the process of doing it, with the Six of Cups reversed, there's some old patterns that you are letting go of. So as I say, if you are falling into the camp of people who you don't, and it could be, it depends on what culture you're in, all sorts of things, but like you probably would perhaps not be the person who says, I want to get married and have 2 children and a white picket fence, for instance. Like there's something about your sort of background or whatever that you're different to, and your mind is really quite comfortable with that now, ready to let in the kind of love and emotion that would suit you, which is great. If you are the sort of person who gave up too much in the past, you maybe started that pattern even in childhood and you've realized it. So your mind's all over that. That's great. Your mind also is prepared to fight for you with the Chariot here. Wants to move forward. And it's saying, you know what, it looks like I'm all about the emotion, but you know what, I'm okay too, because the Chariot card is the balance of head and heart. So although this looks like there's a lot about emotion and a bit about sort of ego and body kind of autonomy, this is saying it's your mind is actually more at the forefront than it maybe looked at the beginning. So it's saying, yeah, it's all good. I've worked this out. It's all good. And I know what the ultimate outcome would be for me to manifest. I know what this means. I do know what I actually want. And so now I'm happy to sort of, with Aries here is the god that's being depicted with the Chariot. I'm happy to fight for what is mine and what should be mine and who I am. So that's very good. So your mind knows that you're going to love differently, act differently, put yourself a little bit first for the first time maybe, or sort of, just define what it is for you. So that's great. So what don't you know that would be good for your mind to consider in this scenario, pile 3? Oh, there's the other oracle. You're very psychic. The Emperor, the Queen of Pentacles. Okay, what you don't fully know yet, and I think it's fully know because I think you're well on your path. I think you've reached some really good conclusions and your mind sort of knows what you want to do. But part of your mind is feeling a bit frustrated here because you're saying you're kind of underestimating some of the energy of other people on this situation, on whether you can just go forward and do this. What your mind needs to know is to truly bring about what you want and to get the Queen of Pentacles for the King of Pentacles, so for a relationship, or, this could be a business partnership. It doesn't have to be a relationship. Whatever it is, whatever is close to your heart, you have to have an equal, and you tend to attract people who want to be more dominant. So your mind needs to see that, because otherwise you're going to keep frustrating yourself. And this is where it's important when you're in this emotional flow. You're trying to find an equal, but maybe you tend to mistake a kind of dominant, because there is a strong energy with you. A dominant sort of personality is being an equal, but often a dominant personality is in fact a bit of a cover for insecurity. And then you get the kind of, so there's something here about understanding that so that you find your equal. And if you understood that dynamic, that's like, it may be that you shouldn't be going for the most powerful person that you come across. You should be going for someone who seems solid, dependable, well. And that's not to say that you're kind of making some sort of, very profit-based idea about love. But there does seem to be something here where when you're trying to find your equal so that you will get that balance going and you don't give too much and you don't, not too much is expected of you. You do have a tendency, the oracle is saying here, to maybe confuse status or something like that, whatever sort of like resonates for you, for being your equal. But you need to find someone who is not just in a position of power or appears to sort of like, or makes a big fuss about being powerful, because you are quite powerful. You're just not making as big a fuss about it. So it's finding the other person who's got the same energy as you, I think, is important. which can be easier said than done. But one of the things that can help with this, with your mind, is to understand some of your psychology that's also worth thinking about for this. So I'm just going to use a couple of decks to look at some of your psychology that's relevant to this situation. Pile 3. Self-esteem. Yeah, that's important. And concentrativeness. Okay. So I think that you have a good sense of self-esteem, but I think that sometimes you've emotionally, as I say, either given that up or you've tried to sort of put it into sort of a framework that really didn't fit you. And part of the dignity of self-esteem is to be true to yourself. You're not egotistical, but I think you might attract egotists sometimes. This is this energy, egotists or arrogance. So just being aware that sometimes when you're seeing someone who seems to have the same level of self-esteem as you, it's actually a cover. So just being a little bit more critical of that before you commit to something. And then I think this oracle will look less frustrated. This is a matter of focus. You are able to focus. You are able to really clearly see. Your mind can work very well that way. So when something is important to you emotionally, something is important to who you are and to finding the right connections, as I say, whether they be love, friendship, work, or whatever, let your mind's capacity to focus on the details and really see something clearly. And your psychic ability, because you notice that she has the third eye open as well too. This is you are psychic as well. So where you focus your energy psychically actually helps bring in what you want. So if you're looking to bring in energy, start to kind of like imagine that, meditate on it, manifest it in that way. And don't manifest the Emperor, manifest the King of Pentacles, I think. Okay, so let's get another couple of cards around your personality that if your mind thinks about it will be helpful. Rainbow, hopeful, unique, colourful, pride. Yeah, you're different, like, again, and we have temperance here with the rainbow with Iris, like there is something different about what you do. So you either have to do something different to bring in the right connection if you've been giving too much of yourself, or you're just going to express it differently to other people. And water. So this could be that you're a water sign. Certainly there is a lot of emotion. Certainly it's important for you to look at the heart side of this on Reena's channel. You may have some of those physical characteristics as well, but I think it's more a water sign. In the context of this sort of reading and the question we're asking, I think it's more the element of water, the element of emotion, the element of flow. And you can flow. You don't have to be rigid. You don't have to be rigid, but you do have to be clear. You have to let your mind clarify and articulate this, I think. Then you can go with the flow, but you need almost your set of parameters so that you know that your choice is the right choice. Okay, so let's see some of the impact that your mind needs to know from the people around this. So some of the energies around you that could be impacting this. Screen time. Okay, I'll put out 3 and then talk about it. Astrology, all right. Multilingual, okay. So I would think that there is something a bit unusual and different and quirky and maybe into spiritual things around people that you're around. This is why you're coming up like the oracle twice, or the third eye there, astrology. Certainly would be suggesting that if you can know the astrology of key people around you, love partners, collaborators or whatever, that could be helpful. But it may be that you're around people that are interested in astrology, that kind of thing. It's definitely, I think of all the divinatory arts, it's probably the one that's most in the mind. So it's definitely a good match for this reading because it's all about the kind of mathematics of the movements of the stars and how they interact with each other. But I think this is saying lighten up and have some fun with people sometimes with screen time, and maybe even saying, what kind of movies and stuff people like to watch might tell you something about people you're around. Very clever people, very different, very diverse. So that's great. But it's just, as I say, it's important to maybe look at some of the energies around this to determine whether you're sort of heading towards the equal or towards someone who is a bit more dominant. And as I say, whether this is in love or in something else. Let's see the energy of fate that's operating around you as well that could be useful for your mind to consider. The seer, follow your intuition. My goodness, is saying this over and over. So in fact, it is important for you because you're very emotional to go and see what the heart says. And it's important to know what your mind is saying because I think it's going to help you clarify and work out what you want to do. but also follow your intuition. You're very, very psychic. And that's neither heart nor mind. It's a bit of an amalgamation of both, which is probably why the Chariot came up. It's probably through your intuition that you connect those two elements. And the Griffin, honor and good luck. Yeah, good stuff is coming through for you. You're ready to be who you're meant to be. This is why it's important to define it so that you are heading in the right direction on that level. Okay, so what we also want to do is have a look at a question you can ask, your mind can ask, and the alchemical stage that you're at too. So some other information for your mind to consider. So a question that would be helpful for your mind to ask you is, from the constellation Lyra, what if you could be the love you never received? Okay, so I think for many of you, well, it would go for both of these things. For many of you, this is because there have been patterns that weren't right for you, and it's time now for you to honour and own yourself, and that's going to bring the right stuff in. But once you define it in yourself, that makes it easier to find your counterpart because you're actually living what it is that you would want to receive. But it could also be if you have a very different view of this and you didn't receive the love that you wanted because people had, you were around people with different cultural or even intellectual ideas about love, then if you start to live what it is that you want, you can bring that in. Okay, let's see alchemically what we're looking at. Aries, Mars, Aries, yeah, the Chariot, it's pointing to that. This is about taking action. This is about taking control. This is about defining yourself. And you may need, for some of you, you may need to be a little bit warlike to reposition yourself, to allow the right energies to come in. But certainly, as I say, Aries is the god that is shown in the Chariot. So I think and that was with the Seer. I think for most of you, this is really saying that if you go within your intuition, you will find where your strength is and you will be able to act in a way that brings in what you want. So it's a very powerful manifestation side of this. But you've just got to determine that what you want is new, different, and suits you. Okay, so let's look at the heart, because a lot of this is about the heart. It has been right from the beginning. So I just wanted to have one card that was around heart energy as a bit of a teaser for Reena's reading if you haven't been there already. And if you have, just to kind of connect to that as well. So what kind of whisper is your heart making to your mind at this point? Pile 3. Forgiveness. Okay. So for those of you that have had bad relationships before, or difficulty with family, or difficulty fitting in, or people trying to make you be something that you weren't, to be able to now focus on what you want and bring that in, you have the warlike energy to take action, but you don't have to go to war. You can forgive and let it go. So your heart can heal to allow the new stuff in, but your mind remembers so that you don't do that again, so that you actually make the assessments you need, and your intuition marries the two so that your action is in accordance with your heart. So that's really lovely. Okay, so last but not least, let's just get you 3 cards for astrology to see what other guidance your mind could have with this situation. Pile 3. The 9th house. So this is about freedom, expanding who you are. It could be about learning as well. There could be this could be saying that you have a different and unusual way of looking at these things, and you could potentially teach others, or you could go and learn about it and take some of these learnings and make that part of your life path. We have the first quarter moon. So this is all about setting your intentions. Things are starting to pick up speed. If you haven't met, because I do think for most of you this is about a significant relationship, whether it's a loved one or creative or whatever. If you haven't already met them, they're coming in soon. This is why it's important your mind needs to have worked all this out. And waning gibbous moon, so calm after the storm. So yeah, for most of you, there's been some pushback for what you believe, what you care about in whatever the situation is, or there's been a bad relationship, bad blood or whatever, but you can forgive that, let that go. because the storm is over. It's time now to move forward and expand who you are and what you want in the world, pile 3. So I hope you enjoyed that reading. I hope that it resonates for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share, love to hear about it in the comments. And do go and see Reena's reading if you haven't already done so, to see what your heart wants to say about this. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So we have some Dreams of Gaia cards and some astrology cards to try and get a bit of a sense to start with what this situation is. And part of the point of that is so that if this doesn't resonate, then don't try to make it fit. Maybe try another of the readings and see, because obviously, I mean, I'll try and be as broad as I can in the situation, but you need to know that you can actually see this in your life. And I think this is quite specific. There's probably 2 different ways it could be operating, but it's quite specific. So I think it's important to think about this. So this whole situation is about a combination of either learning from someone or teaching someone something, the conflict that is associated with when the student, whether that's you or whether you have a student, I mean this in a very broad way, is ready to reach your level or go beyond it, the debt that is owed to either the teacher or the student, and how the transformation occurs. Why I say this is that we start, and you could be either of these people. We have within this situation someone who I think is emotionally mature, advanced, probably a bit of a natural healer, someone who is a teacher emotionally, someone who is bringing great skill to something, very emotionally resonant, very mature. And we have someone young. And this doesn't have to be literally an age. So it could be, there could be 2 people who are both, say, 40 years old, for instance. So neither is younger than the other, but one, in whatever this situation is more advanced, at the very least emotionally, but probably within whatever the thing is that is being talked about. So it could be a manager to an employee. It could be a teacher to a student. It could be somebody who is very skilled at a particular thing to somebody who's just starting out and learning it. But I do feel that what's operating here, whether you are the teacher or the student, and that's just how I'm going to broadly talk about it, and whether, you're a parent and it's a child, or you're the child and it's a parent, like there's some sort of relationship like that operating here. I think it is getting to the transition point, because this is a point with the 5 of fire where there's like a little bit, it's not bad competition, but there's a little bit of competition. There's a little bit of fire energy of, I would say, the youth in this situation now starting to come into their power. And this is a highly transformative moment where the honor of this is important. With South Node life's death, something is changing, something is shifting. You could be graduating in university, for instance, and you're moving potentially beyond somebody that you had been guided by. Or, as I say, you could be coming to the level or even eclipsing a boss. It could be anything. Or you could be the person who's been the guide and the mentor, and now this person is ready to fly. Now, even if you are the most generous person in that latter case, there's always that sort of sense of, okay, there's a shift here. Relationships sort of settle very quickly, and when a shift like this occurs, it's a true transformation. And the way to move through that and to not end up in conflict is to understand it as a reciprocal energy exchange. So even if you were the teacher, you will have learned from the student. If you're the student, you've definitely learned from the teacher. And it's honoring that. So there's something here where your mind, and I think your mind will be very helpful here, can give a sense of balance so that in whichever situation you're in, it doesn't go to conflict. It's a beautiful exchange of energy. It's a transformation that needs to occur. So in whichever, because if you are the student, you don't want to burn the bridges with the teacher. And if you are the teacher, you don't necessarily want to lose that contact with someone that you've taught and who may eventually go on to great things and teach you something. So there is an issue about ego. There is issue about responsibility and debt, but this transformation is coming. A shift is going on in some aspect of life between the teacher and the student, and I'm just going to use that very broadly. So let's have a look. What is helpful here, I think, is the King of Water. So the teacher, quote unquote, is very emotionally mature. So I think that has there's a lot of promise in this. If you are the student who's about to move on, I think you've got a very good chance of still having a good connection with the teacher. If you are the teacher, you have a very good chance of using your mind and also your heart. So it's important to go and see Reena's reading as well, but to use both those things to make this not be a transition that becomes competitive. So let's get a little bit more information with tarot about it. We're going to start with just a little bit more information about the actual situation. Then we're going to look at what your mind does know at the moment, and also what information your mind might not have at this point that could be useful to consider. So firstly, a little bit more information about this scenario. Four of Cups, Two of Wands, Knight of Wands, Seven of Pentacles, King of Cups reversed. Now this is interesting. The King of Cups is reversed here and the King of Cups or the King of Water is there. So it hangs in the balance. Whether you are the teacher or whether you are the student, there is something here that has to be faced. So depending upon which role you have. If you are the teacher, then you have to be able to understand that within your heart there will be a little bit of a wrench that the student is moving on. And it may not be competition, though there's a bit of competition there, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be just that something is shifting in the relationship. So very important to sort of see the energy around the heart, as I say, with Reena's reading. But if you are the student, then there is you may actually be regretting that relationship is shifting, and you may be sort of feeling an emotional loss, or you may feel that you have to dim some of your fire in around this person. And so it could start to cause a bit of friction in the relationship. But understanding that dynamic and understanding that it's normal and it's human, and that everybody has to sort of go through that when they've been in that kind of, mentor and mentee, coach and sort of the coaching subject, like all of these sort of things have this at some point. So letting your mind be aware of the emotional things and not judging it, just observing it and being aware of it will be helpful. But there is an emotional issue with the Four of Cups. Your mind has to recognize that, and it could become a blockage if it isn't recognized. Now, what your mind also can know is that there's actually really goodwill between you and the other person in this situation. And look, it could even have been a love relationship, but one has outgrown the other. So it just depends on what it is. But there's goodwill. But something has to move, something has to change. It's an investment, however. There is every opportunity here to shift the relationship and make it something that grows in a different way and is really mutually beneficial. But the mind needs to understand what's going on in the heart here, whether it's within your own heart and you're thinking, oh, I'm letting myself down, like, why am I feeling this way? I should be happy for this person, but like understand that's human and that you can go through that, But if you are the student, if you're feeling like, I'm feeling a bit brokenhearted, this person doesn't seem to be dealing with it, understanding this is probably transitory, that there is a lot here that could happen, but you shouldn't let it stop you. You shouldn't let it stop you if that's the case. So this will work itself out, but it has to shift. So let's see what your mind does know about this situation. Powerful. Six of Pentacles reversed. Page of Pentacles. The Fool, the Ace of Swords. So again, your mind knows that the new journey is necessary, either for you or for the other person. I'm feeling actually with those two, the chances are for most of you, you're more like the student and you're dealing with the teacher. It doesn't have to be the case with all of you, but I feel like you're going on a new journey. If you are the teacher, then your mind kind of knows it needs to shift, and you maybe need to find new people that you help and teach and mentor and guide, or that you have to look differently at this connection so that it can continue with a journey. But I think for a lot of you, you're the person who's quote unquote graduating in whatever this is. And your mind knows that there are real material things to do now, and you're in a position to plan and do something new. But yeah, the benefactor situation is now shifting out. So either being a benefactor, if you're that, is shifting out. You have to let the other ones start to plan for themselves and go on this journey, and then you can be on a journey with them at a different type, or you have to now do your own planning and so forth. You're ready. You don't need to hold the hand of the teacher. So you know all of this. This is good. I think the only thing is that your heart around this might be a little bit of a stranger to you because it's a tug. It feels emotionally sad, and it feels like, oh, is this just ego? But it is a bit of ego, but it's emotion as well. It's human. It's being human. Powerful. So let's see what you don't know or see that if your mind knew it would be helpful. Two of Pentacles reversed. Death reversed. The High Priestess. So firstly, very strong psychic link between you and this person. Intuition's really on point. If you go into your intuition, if your mind allows for that rather than just sort of like thinking about what was the last thing they said and what does that mean and what's the emotional thing there and all that kind of thing, going into your intuition, your mind will get a focus that it wouldn't have had. This is what you don't know, is that the other person in the situation is struggling with it as well. They don't want to make this choice any more than you do. So if it is a love relationship that's splitting because it's time for you to go and do something else, or it's time for them, there's a lot of heartache here because there was real love and real emotion. If this is, as I say, a teacher and student, both sides don't really want this change to come. So you're not alone in this. If you feel like the pushback that's going on is just competition and not wanting to kind of accept what you're becoming or accept what you have to offer anymore if you're the teacher, that's not the case. The other side is equally worried about this, but it has to happen. So it's almost like a good conversation about it, and what could this build to the future? What could be directions that you both connect with in the future? What would that be? And letting your intuition guide you would be a way to sort through this situation. So, as I say, it's very specific, but it's very human. Like, it's incredibly human, actually. And it can break down so many wonderful relationships if one doesn't understand it. So if your mind gets this, if you know it has a psychological framework around it, I think it's really helpful. So speaking of psychological things, let's have a look at some of the aspects that you bring to this in terms of your psychology, that if your mind considers it, it will help you understand it even more. And, you could be a parent and you could be a child, and you could be thinking, oh, I should be wanting them to move out. And now I'm really bereft that they are. Like, that's human. It's all human. Okay, so we have adhesiveness, friendship. Yeah, there's a really good call. You're a great friend, a great parent, a great coach, all of that sort of stuff. But there is something here about, how do you balance that to make it friendship and mutually beneficial, not to be just trying to hold on to, say, like an adhesive with it. And firmness, needing to be firm. I think that you're going to be the one who really needs to make the decision about how this evolves. I think you have the strength and the firmness to do it. I think that the other person may not, for whatever reason, even if you were the student. Let's see what else personally is in your kit bag around this. Pile 4. Okay, so you may be born in the year of the dog. Otherwise, you've got these sort of personality traits: helpful, honest, trustworthy. You can be very unselfish, but you can also be a bit anxious and a bit pessimistic. There is, the other side feels this as well too. There is a way to recalibrate this. It can't stay the way it was, but there is something that can be made of it. And fire. So I don't think this is, because of the way we're reading the cards at the moment, anything about, like physical characteristics you have. But you have a passion, you have an energy, you have creativity, you can take action. You are probably the one who's going to need to take the action to this might be at a bit of an impasse at the moment, and you may be the one who needs to take the action to release the tension, I think. So let's see what personality characteristics are coming towards you from the other person, because I think it is another person here. '30s. So this person might be in their 30s. If not, it makes me feel the most likely thing. Well, actually, it might be that you're the teacher with the 30s, because the 30s is when somebody consolidates. But on the other hand, it might be that you're younger than that, or that this is saying that the other person needs to sort of recalibrate, to reconsolidate, that maybe they put a lot of their definition of themselves in being your mentor, your coach, your teacher, or whatever. So there's something going on with this person anyway in terms of really establishing who they are. Then we have confident. They are confident. That's helpful because I think in either space they're going to need to be, because it's, it is a bit of a gut wrench for both of you. And because I think it's a genuinely very caring relationship, whatever type of relationship it is. And adolescence, yeah. So actually this person sort of veers a lot about where they sit with this. So, like I think that they can revert to kind of like that sort of sense of adolescence. They can be trying to establish themselves. Like even if they've been the teacher, I think that there is sort of like, there's something that they're getting out of this about who they are, and knowing that, and that's why it's hard for them as well too. Understanding their psychology would be helpful. They are confident, but they veer between thinking they're established and feeling that they don't even know who they are. Okay, so let's see what fate energy is operating that your mind can think about with this as well. Powerful. Fire again. Reckless actions lead to conflict. So I think the one thing that would be saying here, because this is the one risk, the competition, is not understanding and sympathizing and empathizing with the other person. Going into the conflict will destroy any capacity for this to be anything other than a relationship that's left behind in whatever form it is. So try not to go into that competitive thing. Try not to make that assumption. I don't think that's what's going on. And the black cat, your luck will soon change. So I think it will start to clear itself. You'll be able to work it out. Just as long as you don't buy into what appears to be ego-based things, then that will work out for you. So I want to also give your mind a question to ask about this, and also an idea of where you are alchemically in this process. So some other information, or a question and some other information to understand this. So the question is from the constellation Apis. What if your breakdown is your breakthrough? So there's something here that feels very fragile, something here that feels hard. It's a hard thing. I don't think you're going to have a breakdown. I don't think they're going to have a breakdown, but there is a fundamental change that has to happen in the balance of this relationship. But it's a breakthrough. Doesn't have to be bad. And if you understand the other person is feeling the same way, that allows you to start to work together to have it be a breakthrough for both of you. Let's see the alchemical energy around this. Oh, wow. The drowned king. Yeah, there's ego associated with this. So the drowned king is where, in effect, the king sort of goes down to the depths of their heart. So it's interesting that the king of cups, whoever the king of cups is in this, whether that's you or whether it's the other person. So this is the person who's the teacher. There are ego issues to come to terms with and to get back to the heart. It is possible to get back to the heart because the alchemical process is about that. But this is a fundamental shift for whichever one of you was in the kind of leader-teacher role. There is a fundamental shift to allow this to occur, and the ego has to let go to allow that to occur. But certainly it can happen, and it's profoundly transformative, and in the end, it's incredibly maturing and an incredibly beautiful thing, whether it's you or the other person. Okay. So there's a lot about the heart there. Once you get past the ego, you get to the heart. So as a bit of a sort of taster for Reena's reading, if you haven't already been to Reena's, I wanted to just pull a card from a deck that talks about love, to get to the heart, to sort of see what the heart energy is here. Though I think it's pretty clear. I think there's actually a lot of genuine good heart feeling here. It's just a transformation that's going on. So just want to get a taster of what your heart may tell you. And then, of course, if you haven't already, go and see Reena's reading and see what that has to say. And then we'll finish off with some astrology guidance for you. But firstly, a bit of a taste of what the heart is saying. The distorted feminine. Okay. So the distorted feminine is where somebody kind of like gives up their autonomy, gives up, like goes with the flow to just go with things. I think what this is saying is that the one thing your heart cannot have with this is either requiring someone to stay in a student role if you're the teacher, or requiring yourself to stay in a student role. With that life's debts, the South Node, this was a mutual exchange. Even if somebody benefited you, was a benefactor, was a teacher, or if you were, it was a mutual exchange. The distorted feminine is a kind of self-sacrifice. So there are two warnings in this view one from your heart and one from your mind. The mind's warning is don't go into ego and just go into battle because you are both suffering. The one from the heart is don't look at the suffering of the other and feel you have to give in to make them feel better. So it's very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what you get with Reena's reading. Okay, just to finish off part 4, we're just going to get you 3 cards from astrology just to see how the stars would guide you around this situation as well. 6th house. Some of you, this is in the workplace, and it wouldn't surprise me, like a manager and an employee, a mentor and a mentee, that kind of thing, or your service to others. And again, this is where your heart can't sort of distort that so that you're always doing what the other person wants to make them feel okay. This is meant to be a mutual exchange. Then we also have the 3rd house. How you communicate is really important. There's a delicacy here, but I think that you are able to do it because there is a lot going for this relationship, even if the person is acting out a bit. And lastly, 3rd quarter moon, the release, out with the old and in with the new. Yeah, it cannot stay the same. Whatever else happens, change has to happen with this. But I think there's enormous potential for it to evolve into something more like equals or collaborators or even a love relationship if one has been the more dominant, to actually balance that out, but it can't stay what it is. So you do need to let go of the past, but you have really strong communication skills and your mind can really do this. And you really do care, and I think the other person really does care. There was a mutual benefit and mutual servicing of needs in a particular way in this type of connection. So don't get into the ego thing through your mind, and don't give up too much through your heart. If you can get that into balance, I think this will actually turn out to be a very positive thing. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 4. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. Please do go and check out Reena's readings if you haven't already, because there's a lot of importance in hearing what the heart has to say in these sorts of situations. But beyond that, if you care to share, do so in the comments, and I hope to see you in future readings.